Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Today, we have with us Shereen Hauser-Miller. She is a physical therapist, expertise in neurodevelopmental treatment and trauma therapy, or as I like to call you, a baby whisperer. Now, you do, as your job, you come into people's homes, and can you describe a little bit about what your process is?
It's a pretty intimate process because I'm going into your home.
Is it ever kind of weird? Like the first time you met our family, can I ask you, because we're friends, what did you think?
It was one of my favorite situations where there's babies and dogs.
Exactly. I remember our dog used to go, and when you'd come, because our daughter, she was probably, 3 months old when you started working with her? And
between 2 and 3 months, yeah.
Yeah, and you would come in and you would sit there and we would have different physical exercises and things that we would work through. And our dog would just sit in your lap the whole time. And she pretty much thought that you came to give her therapy. So she's a little sad.
She wasn't wrong.
She wasn't wrong. Do you think that all families have special needs to an extent?
Yeah. Everybody's unique. Everybody has their own family culture, family history. Everybody has their challenges. Something you're not good at pops up, and you have to learn how to deal with it as a parent.
And that's kind of your job as a detective, to help parents discover, what can I do to unlock this in my child?
Yes. Some parents are very intuitive when it comes to what it is that their child needs, what it is that's going to help them, that's going to work within their family. And other people have a little bit more difficulty kind of teasing out what's important to them, what their child needs. And it's usually because there's a lot of anxiety around it. The answer's right there, but I can't find it because I'm too worried about all this other stuff.
How do you unlock that?
It's not something that happens automatically. It's a process. So much like getting to know your family, it's week after week of this very intimate setting of being in someone's home, seeing how their family interacts, seeing how the child and their parents or their caregivers interact, and you get little glimpses. You begin piecing a picture together of what is important to this family. Asking lots of questions helps unlock what's important to this family. What do they need? What is their next step going to be? And it's a process of getting to know each individual family unit.
I know I felt as much when you were with our family that you were giving me help in therapy at the same time that you were giving Zoe help in therapy. And I really welcomed it because I know it's not the same for every family, but for our family, it was a really lonely time. You know, we had just discovered that we had a child who had special needs, and we did not know what we were doing. And I quit my job so I could take care of her. And I felt so isolated. And the one person that I would get to see would be you, who came. And I remember that there were great hard things that we did together. And I remember there were great moments of hope that you brought through the door with you. Is that a big responsibility for you in a family?
The way early intervention for children birth to 3 years old works is a plan is developed that's called an Individualized Family Service Plan. It's an IFSP. When a child is in school, their individual educational program is developed, IEP. And there is the big difference, because our program, family, is built right into the name of the plan. It is an entire family. Babies don't exist in isolation. They're not by themselves. They exist in a family unit. It's built into the job title that the whole family is who we're helping, who we're serving, who we have the privilege to be involved with. And to answer that question, Sam, sometimes it does feel like a real big responsibility, because in each home, it's not just one individual whose feelings, hopes, desires we're holding. It's the whole family unit. We're holding all of those people. It can be big at times. There can be lots and lots of big feelings around that.
It's something that probably could be a little scary for some families to want to enter in. In some ways, it's probably hard for families to even admit, hey, I think we might have a little something going on. Do you find that? And then what do you counsel new parents to look for where they go, oh, I might need to get some extra help with this particular child?
Sometimes it's a full-blown denial, and usually there's fear and fear of the unknown. Sometimes there's just a, well, it's going to be okay, right, kind of feeling. Again, that's a little bit of fear there, trying to predict the future. Our brains are good at trying to predict. We're not so good at being in the moment. How I try to approach that in counseling families is, one is absolutely trust your gut, because most parents have an instinct. They've got a gut feeling that there's something that's going on that just doesn't quite fit typical development. And at the same time, enjoy your children, enjoy your baby. Try not to worry. I know it's easier said than done, but there are lots and lots of us watching out for a baby's development. It's not just the person that comes to their home. It's the pediatrician. It's lots of family members, even if you don't want them to be watching out for development. But there's lots of people that are keeping track of it. And it's hard to not worry about your baby when you know that there's something that's different in their development. Information, maybe information is the answer to that. Good, clear information, not TikTok and not Instagram, but trusted sources.
Come on. I'm remembering how I felt at that time, and I don't know if other families feel this way, but in some way I felt like I had failed somehow, that somehow the reason we had special needs was I did something wrong. Clearly I did something wrong. Do you find that there are feelings like that from families?
Sure, very much so. I think mom guilt is absolutely real. Parents sometimes feel like they're the reason and they need to be reassured. I see this when there are more than one child in the family that has special needs. I've had moms say, what's wrong with me that I gave birth to these two high needs children? And the answer is, of course, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you when you have a special needs child. It happens all the time. We don't know why some people have special needs and some people don't. There's neurological reasons behind it. There are genetic reasons behind it. Sometimes it's a birth trauma history, and who knows when that's going to happen or why that happens. Parents feeling guilty, like they did something wrong. So in addition to wondering whether they did something wrong to give birth to a baby with special needs, I also see the guilt of, am I doing enough?
Right.
What else should I be doing? And even when a parent is truly at capacity, doing everything they can, they still sometimes feel like they're failing their child because maybe they're not making improvements as quickly as possible, or on the same timeline as another child that they've had, or a friend's child who they're posting all these wonderful things on Facebook.
Yes.
And it's a little bit of grief for this other family that has a child with special needs whose progress just isn't quite following the same trajectory. That guilt is real. Sometimes that's really sad. Sometimes that's really hard for families.
Well, I remember you really helped me kind of set free from some of that, in that I felt like I needed to fix it somehow. And I think the message that I got when you came and you worked with Zoe is that she's perfect. There's nothing to fix. What we're doing is we're helping her move to the next level that she can move to. And here, in a very practical and loving way, is how we're going to do it. That meant the world to me. I still think about
hearing that. That means the world to me to hear that.
To me, I wish, and the reason I wanted to talk with you is that I wish that everyone could have had a Shireen who came to their house and could help. And so I just feel like I wanted to share some of the stuff you brought into our home. I remember something as basic as you told me that when she was passionate about something, to ride the wave. Like if she was interested in whatever it was. Our child likes food a lot. And so just she's really, really interested, and she wants to keep playing with that or keep doing that you just stay with that rather than switching off and doing something else. That was so helpful to me. And it kind of set me free of like, oh, I can be in the moment. Oh, I can play. I can follow her lead, and this is going to go well.
Child-directed activity. Yes, following the child's lead. I would have said I learned that from you, Sam.
Oh.
There was a time when we were working on having Zoe sit up and maybe have her back straighter, and you held her bottle up so that she would have to stretch up a little bit to reach for her bottle. I remember that very distinctly, and I thought, wow, this woman is brilliant. What a great idea.
Remember, you sent me the idea of using a colander and putting pipe cleaners in it because she could kind of poke them through the holes, and it was just an interesting game. It surprised me because I think a lot of times parents, we go, oh, am I going to have to buy a program? Am I going to have to find a system that's going to cost a lot of money? And what you showed me is that there are things in your home that you can use for therapy every day.
Most children are more interested in those everyday items than the flashy plastic toy with way too many sounds and light. Our children want to imitate us. They want to do what we're doing. And so that's why a child's favorite thing is their parents' phone and the remote, because those are the two things that we seem to use a lot as adults. Whatever you've got at home. Do you remember ice cube trays? We did ice cube trays too, putting a Cheerio in each ice cube tray for working on that pincer grasp. Yeah,
that little fine motor. And I sort of remember we were doing relays back and forth across the carpet, and that we were including the dog so that she would feel competitive with the dog and trying to get the Cheerios. Do you remember that? To this day, I think our daughter thinks she's a border collie.
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Involving the siblings, the older siblings, or sometimes the younger siblings, is an awesome way to get the whole family involved. And sometimes parents think, oh, I need to have somebody watch the older kids. But if you can include them, then it's the whole family. Again, it's part of that individualized family service plan. The whole family is part of helping this little one reach their next step. And I love what you said. There's nothing wrong with your child. It's not what's wrong with them. It's what happened, and how do we help them get to the next level? Not fixing it is an important concept. It's also hard for me to not want to fix families, situations, or issues, and I have to remember people don't need to be fixed. They just need to be supported. Child development is one of the most fascinating things I've ever encountered, and there's constant change. I think there's always so much hope for the next step because the brain is not yet developed. It's not fully developed yet. And there's so much room for change that whenever you give a little input to that system, you're going to see changes in their output. You're going to see changes in development. You're going to see improvement over time. I have never, ever in my over 30 years had a child or a family where I felt like it was hopeless. Never. There's always hope. There's always more that can be done. Sometimes it's just finding the right person that's a good fit for your family. Maybe that person is a physical therapist. Maybe it's a speech therapist. Maybe it's a music therapist, or maybe it's art therapy, or maybe it's the next door neighbor that your child just adores and will do anything for. Just like you said, child-directed, whatever the child is interested in and passionate about. Sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's a thing. Finding that and capitalizing on it.
What have you learned about your own special needs as you have walked beside families with special needs?
It's so important to let go of judgment. We tend to, as human beings, even when we don't want to, we harbor judgments about people. And you never really know what someone is going through internally. You never really know what their internal struggles are. I try to always give people the benefit of the doubt, like I would hope they would give me if I'm having a bad day, or if I'm having a bad month, or if I'm struggling with a certain concept to learn. Because when I hit my own struggles, I often think, this is nothing compared to what so many of my other families have to deal with on a daily basis. I can do this. this isn't as hard as I'm making it out to be.
What's a funny story that still makes you laugh?
I was working with a little one. He was almost 3 years old. We had been working really hard on balance activities. This little boy was visually impaired, so balancing was really tricky, going over level surface changes. We took a little break on the sofa, and he's sitting on the sofa sucking his thumb, and he turns and he looks at me, and he takes his thumb out of his mouth and he offers it to me. Like, here, would you like to suck on this too?
You've earned this.
Exactly. Like, phew, we're taking a break. Maybe you want this too.
What do you recommend to someone if they want to find out, hey, where are resources? And I know, people are going to be hearing this. Some will be in Washington State. Some will be in other places. Where do you begin?
Your child's pediatrician is your best first resource on any developmental concerns. They're going to be connected to the early intervention services in your area. In our area in King County, we have so many, I'm not even sure I could list them all.
Right.
There are multiple different early support for infants and toddlers programs. It's called different things in different areas, but typically it's called early intervention. And then trusted resources such as pathways.org or the CDC's website on developmental milestones, because those are all based in research of hundreds and thousands of children and what typical development looks like.
We haven't talked about trauma very much. Is there anything about trauma that you think families might need to know?
Sometimes it's a birth trauma where it's physically a difficult birth. Sometimes it's past trauma from either an incident or an event. And the thing about trauma is it's not the thing that happened, it's everything around it. It's how everybody reacted to it, how your body reacted to it. So it's a very invisible thing, and it just requires a lot of asking questions to figure out where that trauma is. And most of the time, when people begin to talk it through and feel through the trauma that they've experienced, it really helps to have somebody just listen to it. It's not something that can be fixed, but it is something that needs to be acknowledged.
I did quit my job, and Carlos was going through his own struggles at that time, as you remember, and it was such an incredibly lonely time for both of us, and I think isolated time, and that lasted for a good 3 years at least. And so what do you say to families who are going through that kind of a season?
That kind of isolation is very real. People get very lonely when they feel like they're the only one going through these struggles. If you have providers that you trust, pediatricians, the nurses, maybe it's friends who've gone through something similar, reach out to people and reassure yourself you're not the only one going through this. If you say that to your child's pediatrician, they're going to help you connect to other people who have gone through this. There's a group called Parent to Parent. I don't know if it's in every state. I know in Washington State it's a really amazing organization, and it's parents who've gone through this that want to be there for other parents so that they can say, you're not alone. We've gone through this. Many people have gone through this, are going through this. And it could be something like not sleeping because your baby's awake all night long, or your baby has reflux and they can't sleep well and they're up often. And you feel when you're sleep deprived and you're lonely, it's hard. It's hard to move forward. Make sure you mention that to these providers, to the people who are in your life. They're going to help you think through what resources are going to be helpful. They're going to reassure you you're not the only one.
And it's so encouraging, too, because I remember when Zoe was born and she has Down syndrome, and I said if there was any way that I could get her the right number of chromosomes, I would do it. And I remember there was another parent who had reached out to me and who said, if there was a way to change it, I don't think I would change it. And I thought in my head, that's crazy. That's crazy. Of course you would change it. And I have to say, after 13 years, she is Zoe 100%. And I don't think I would change it. I don't think I would want to change it.
I would not want to change a thing about Sweet Zoe.
Thank you so much for being here for the Unexpected Adventure. Hope, help, and healing for families with special needs. If you like this, pass it on to a friend or leave a review. And check out other cool content on purposely.com. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time for the Unexpected Adventure.
Thanks for listening. We just wanted to take a minute to let you know that just like you and your family, Purposely is also part of a family, the Krista Family of Ministries. Krista helps kids and teens learn and grow in their faith at King Schools and Miracle Ranch Camp. And Krista shares Jesus with people in the poorest, most remote places through World Concern. Krista Senior Living is a community of love and care, and Krista Media is a place of hope on the radio. God is changing lives through these 5 ministries, and Krista is on mission to share the good news of Jesus. To learn more, visit Krista.org.